Do this. Alright, greetings everyone. Happy September 9th. It is 4:05 p.m. We're watching a lot of thunderstorms firing up over the Cascades this afternoon. This is just an intro for archival purposes. We'll begin the actual live stream once the audience comes to. Alright, welcome in new viewers. Going live at this hour to cover the widespread thunderstorms all around the north, central, and southern Washington Cascades. However, most of the activity right now is staying to our south across the Columbia. So we just got an advisory out for this strong thunderstorm coming off the northern Oregon Cascades at this time. Let me go see if I can pull that up real fast. There we go. This was just issued in the last 5 minutes or so. A strong thunderstorm will impact southeastern Clackamas County through 4:30 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Strong thunderstorm 11 miles southeast of Three Links, Oregon, or 19 miles northeast of Detroit, moving north at only 15 miles per hour. So wind gusts to 40 miles per hour and half-inch diameter hail. Now these are some really, really slow-moving thunderstorms. So I believe actually there was a flash flood watch put up for some of southern Oregon, if I'm not mistaken. You see, we're starting to get a lot of new lightning activity coming up the I-90 corridor between Easton and Cle Elum right now. Some of these are striking away from the main area of the storm, so we'll be keeping our eyes peeled on that as well. So for anyone just tuning in, tracking a lot of thunderstorms right now around the North Cascades as well as most of the Southern and Central Cascades as well. Just posting the link out to my social media services so we can really get the stream started up. Whoop, that zoomed in too far. Okay. So you have some, looks like some dying thunderstorms here that haven't produced lightning in about 15 to 20 minutes, but we do have some history of storms producing lightning in the areas of Mount Rainier as well as south of the Nisqually entrance. Previously, there was lightning detected on all corners around the Packwood area, mainly to the east. This is a cell crossing directly over White Pass. Let me just make sure. Okay, yes, it is White Pass. Just wanted to make sure it wasn't Cayuse, but yes, this is over White Pass right now. It's a strong cell that has had a history of producing a lot of lightning. These are moving towards the northwest at only 10 to 15 miles per hour, so extremely slow-moving cells. I'm just gonna post the link to my X account real quick. And for anyone just tuning in, do we have any questions, comments, or concerns? Go ahead and leave them in the comment box below. So it's an extremely impromptu, short notice stream, but I think all of my streams at this point have been of that nature. So this is precisely where the Perry Fire is burning right now, up in Whatcom County, west side of Ross Lake, hoping that we have enough precipitation to put a little damper on that fire. Now, unfortunately, it looks like some of this lightning has been dry. It's been striking from the heaviest area of precipitation within the thunderstorm. And most of it, luckily, has been within that, but there's been a couple outside of that. So, as usual with events of this nature, we will have to be on standby for the chance of new wildfire starts up here. So, activity really starting to ramp up here in the northern Cascades as well. Whatcom, Skagit counties, areas going all the way. Ooh, we just got an update. Okay, it's a forecast discussion. I'm on standby for any significant weather advisories as well from either Seattle or Portland. 4 of you are in here right now. Thank you to whoever liked the stream. 5 of you now. Hello, welcome. Anthony again with Puget Sound Stormwatch. We're currently on standby for thunderstorm activity up in the Cascades. Some of this could roll off into the foothills and to an unlikely extent, possibly some of the lowlands. However, this is extremely unlikely given the more stable environment over the lowlands at this time. Yeah, most of the more robust activity is staying to the south in northern Oregon. So yeah, really prolific lightning producer here near Antelope, Oregon. So these are moving. Let me just put this in. Okay. All right. Okay, Jane Chris, welcome into the chat. Thank you for tuning into the stream. Just gonna go zoom out a little bit and play a radar loop across the Pacific Northwest. What you're going to notice here is this little area of spin. This is the upper level trough that has been hanging around with us for quite a number of days already. This was the main area of this was the main disturbance that gave us that widespread thunderstorm coverage a couple nights ago up here in the Puget Sound. Has since slowly begun its trek inland and will likely track towards the northeast into the inland northwest. So most of these showers are rotating towards the northwest out of the southeast. The farther south you go, you'll notice you have this area of spin. So you'll have this counterclockwise little movement of the storms around the low pressure center. And this is also an elevated threat again too, so not much surface-based activity going on. Which explains why most of this is sticking to the Cascades, but we can't rule out any of those drifters into the lowlands, although it's appearing unlikely. It's not impossible at this time. So lightning here to the southeast of Mount St. Helens. Even had one strike way out over the Spirit Lake Observatory. So strong cell down here about to cross near the Cascade Locks, just to the east of Carson. This will probably track right over Carson, judging by the trajectory of these storms. All right, there's 6 of you guys now. Hello, anyone just tuning in, welcome in. Thank you for liking the stream. Just watching a lot of storm activity around the Cascades at this time, drifting off towards the northwest. The big question now is, will we have enough instability over the foothills to sustain these storms as they come off the mountains? It's a possibility, but the chance of this area moving into the lowlands is low, but not out of the question right now. Okay, so yeah, most of the activity outside of what just occurred there is staying to the south right now. Parts of the northern Willamette Valley will probably get some thunder rumbles here soon. You know, this cell right down here has a weather advisory on it to some points to the northwest. This is capable of producing wind gusts up to 40 miles per hour as well as half-inch diameter hail as this storm right here rolls off the Cascades. This is currently moving in the direction of Estacada. We have this thunderstorm here with an abundant amount of dry lightning. Notice how the lightning is way out from the area of strongest precip. We have another renewed chance of wildfire starts, unfortunately. And speaking of that, I do have a wildfire map here. I showed this in yesterday's briefing. So, no new recent updates on the Bear Gulch fire. Tunnel Creek fire has hit 100 acres, 0% containment. This is one of the new ones that happened just a few nights ago. So this is burning up in the hills of the Olympics to the west of the community of Quilcene along Highway 101 here in Washington. Then another new fire since my briefing yesterday. They have dubbed this one the Wright Creek fire. We got quite a few new fire signatures. These just showed up as dots originally. Wildcat fires over 7,700 acres as of 21 hours ago. So some of these fires may be the ones that we were watching on the live stream a couple nights ago. And we've got a bunch of miscellaneous fires here because this does show all vegetation or structure fires as well. So these are not the ones in question though. Most of these are controlled burns or structure vegetation fires in the lowlands, but we're watching these areas up here in the foothills. So no new updates on the Twin fire, no new updates on the Minnehaha fire. We have a new one that started up, it looks like earlier today, called the Huckleberry Creek fire. These are really new, so we don't have any in-depth descriptions on these. We have a new one since yesterday as well. This is the Wonderland fire in Mount Rainier National Park, just west of Paradise. And I didn't even see this one until I zoomed in. So, two fires burning right next to each other. Very small. We don't have any info on containment or size right now. These all appear extremely recent. Wright Creek, I believe this is the new one as well. No info on this. Been active for only a day. Explosive activity from the lower Sugarloaf fire here to the northeast of Leavenworth at this time. Over 12,000 acres explosive fire activity in the last 24 hours. It's grown almost 1,500 acres. So really, really terrible situation going on up there in Chelan County right now. Up here, here's the Perry fire I was talking about. We go back to the radar real quick for a quick update. Yes, so new lightning almost directly over the Perry Creek fire. So if we go a little back and forth action here. The shower is currently over Mount Prophet area, just west of Ross Lake up here in Whatcom County. So the heaviest area of precip is just a tad outside of where the Perry fire is burning right now. So probably not getting very much precipitation right over that. But we need that storm to move a little bit more to the northeast, which it probably won't. It's tracking towards the northwest. But it hit 1,300 acres as of 5 hours ago with 0% containment, unfortunately. Also have the Labor Mountain fire, which has exceeded 3,000 acres as of 19 hours ago. This one is burning a little bit west of Blewett Pass at this time. Then a lot of little small fires that were added to the directory within the last 24 hours. So the Jade fire, for example, was active for 23 hours, updated 4 hours ago. No info on size or containment. Waptis Lake down here, active for 2 days. Still no info on containment or size. And then for anyone just tuning in, we're just going over some of these newer fire starts in the last couple days in relation to dry thunderstorm activity. It's just not a great situation for the Pacific Northwest right now. There's dozens upon dozens of these little dots, all indicating fires. It's bad news. Truly, really bad news. So, we got some borderline severe thunderstorms going on in the inland BC area to the east of the Cascades, as well as parts of Alberta as well. Environment Canada, which is their equivalent to the National Weather Service, has a severe thunderstorm watch out for parts of BC, and I believe they have a severe thunderstorm warning for this region of BC where all the robust storm activity is going on right now. Otherwise, we had no alerts in effect right now for the Cascades. We just had this thunderstorm pop up as it approaches the Highway 530 and Highway 20 corridor near Concrete right now. This is northeast of Darrington. You're probably hearing thunder in the Darrington area right now. So most likely going to hear some reports of thunder from Darrington up to Marblemount and Rockport. So these cells up here are moving almost due west. So this'll see, just had probably a dry lightning strike right there as well. So this storm will likely be crossing Highway 530 between Marblemount and Darrington. Just make sure, I believe that, okay, Rockport, excuse me, I mixed up Rockport and Marblemount. So Marblemount's up here, this is Rockport. So Highway 530 between Rockport and Darrington. So yeah, anyone just tuning in, we're at 11 viewers now. Thank you all for tuning in. Hello, my name's Anthony. I'm the host and founder of Puget Sound Stormwatch. A lot of you probably came from my stream a couple nights ago where we covered the thunderstorm outbreak around the Puget Sound and the Cascades, foothills, and areas around them. Tuning in again for another little spontaneous live stream since we have a lot of activity firing up in the Cascades and some surrounding foothills at this time. Felt like it warranted a little impromptu live stream per se. Lisa says, hey Anthony, stalled cells near Mount St. Helens. Hello, welcome back, Lisa. Good to see you again. So, yeah, nearly stationary cells down here, right in the vicinity of Mount St. Helens. Let me zoom out just a tad and put this into animation. Show you guys what's going on here. So, yeah, basically the closest thing you can get to stationary. It's looking really impressive on radar at the moment. Not producing as much lightning as of recent, but the possibility is still there. You know, some of these showers moving into the lower foothills and the areas of Mount Rainier National Park have had a history of lightning, but have since started to weaken. I believe this has something to do with the stable layer of air that's over some of the foothills and Puget Sound, which will help to hinder our lowland storm chances tonight. So elsewhere across the Cascades at the moment, we got this nice thunderstorm here. This is just south of White Pass. So we did have a thunderstorm track over White Pass earlier. This has since weakened considerably. We have a new one coming up right behind its doorstep. Like right on the doorstep of White Pass and surrounding areas. So heads up, if you know anyone along Highway 12 between Cayuse Pass and Rimrock Lake, tell them round 2 is on the way right behind this. Pretty impressive looking storm here southwest of Easton. We do still have some of this lightning activity approaching I-90 from the south between Easton and Cleellum. Now this activity is moving a little bit closer to the north rather than the west or the northwest. It's just because everything's moving relative to that little spin going on down here in Oregon right now. So this is the location of the center of the upper level trough that's moving in. This is part of the same low pressure system that gave us that widespread thunderstorm outbreak up here a couple nights ago. Coming back in for some more vengeance, primarily to Oregon, but a lot of this instability and moisture has spread to the Cascades once more. For another renewed thunderstorm chance tonight. We still got eyes on this little cell moving into Cascade Locks, just south of Carson, Washington. Possibly some developing activity out here in areas of Yakima and Klickitat counties, eastern Washington. And we're looking out for any new lightning activity up north here as well. The Cascades of Whatcom, Skagit, and Snohomish counties right now. However, we do appear to have one of these storms drifting into the foothills of Snohomish and Skagit counties at this moment. This was producing some lightning in the last few minutes, but has since... I take that right back. Brand new lightning strikes with that storm approaching Highway 530 between Rockport and Darrington right now. Does anyone else watching have any questions, comments, or concerns? I am available to answer any questions to the best of my ability at this time. Or if you have any concerns about the stream, go ahead and leave them at your leisure. So yeah, a lot of this activity up here in the North Cascades is moving towards the west in relation to the spin around this upper level trough here. So, just had a lightning strike here just southwest of White Pass. Probably a dry one as well, so not looking good for dry thunderstorm behavior down here near White Pass, which already had several wildfire starts in the last couple days. Just going back to Facebook real quick. Alright. Sunny down in Tootle. Since I started the stream, we are +4 on YouTube subscribers. Thank you everyone who is watching who may have subscribed. Any new subscribers, very much appreciative of you guys. Without you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this. We have a pretty legitimate chance of pushing 500 tonight if all things go well, which would be huge for me. So this is the location of the Perry Fire burning right now, just off of Ross Lake in Whatcom County. It appears we may have another round of precipitation, some of this heavy moving over the fire, which should help with suppressing some of that fire activity up here. We can see the burn scar up here. This is the Western Fire Chiefs Association map, or wfca.com/fire-map. I'll post a link to this real quick in the description. So these are the coordinates I'm looking at right now. So yeah, this is the fire we're watching, the Perry Fire right now, just on the west side of Ross Lake. Which is the storm moving currently? Sorry, I'm not sure if I understand your question. Could you clarify that, please, for me? That way I can answer it to the best of my ability. Just having a hard time understanding what that said. My apologies for that. So if you were talking about the storms up here near the Perry Fire, we are watching that on radar right now. Looks like this one right behind Ross Lake here to the east side has the best chance of bringing some beneficial precip to that fire. Just had a new comment on Facebook from a non-follower saying, typical Washington weather, we never know what it's going to do, but I'm not liking Saturday's forecast. 76 degrees, come on, I want it cool. That was from one of my posts yesterday. Just got a new comment from a guest. We are also pretty close to 23K on Facebook. Currently at 22,818 followers, only 182 away from the big 23K. The last question is probably something in relation to which direction it was moving. Perhaps feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But these storms are moving to the west the farther north you go. So the closer you are to the center of this low, which is right down here in southwest Oregon, the storms are going to rotate to the counterclockwise around the center of low pressure. Oh, these storms down here are moving mainly to the north, but the farther north you go, it's a little bit confusing to talk about now. That commenter is probably in my I Hate Summer group. Sounds about right. Didn't know that was a thing, but thank you for bringing that to my attention. So, it'll be easier to tell. Let me go to the fastest speed and play this animation real quick. But you notice how a lot of this activity to the east of the low pressure center is moving a little bit more towards the north than the farther north you go, where it's coming out of the west. So we have some northerly movers over here in eastern Oregon, but we have some northwesterly movers in North Oregon, southwest Washington, southern Washington Cascades, and some near due west movers the farther north we go. So, yeah, the center of low pressure is down here in the Roseburg, Medford, Eugene area right now. And some new, very recent lightning activity just popping up here on my windy map right now. A lot of this is a few seconds delayed, but it's the closest real time that you're going to see on these lightning trackers. Alright, so there's 13 of you guys on here right now, 11 likes. Thank you all for liking the stream. If you guys are impressed with the coverage so far, consider sharing it, please and thank you. I'm trying to hit 500 subs on YouTube as soon as possible. We are right on the doorstep of that. It's just one step closer to enabling some new features on YouTube, such as channel memberships, super chats, etc. So lots of new lightning activity around this Perry Fire. Once again, if we go back to the fire map, this is the Perry Fire up here near the Ross Lake Dam. It's just a few miles south of the BC-Washington border, just to the west of Ross Lake, up here in the mountains of Whatcom County. So this fire in particular is over 1,300 acres, updated as of 6 hours ago, and zero containment whatsoever. Been active for 12 days, and we've had very little precip in the area of this fire. However, judging by radar coverage, it looks like that may change here soon, so beneficial precip likely on the way for this fire, but we do still have some dry lightning in this area. So we'll have to keep our eyes peeled for any new fire starts. It usually takes about a day to add any new fires in to the maps. Possibly a dry strike out here. This is some of that storm activity that is east of 410 right now, well to the northeast of Chinook Pass. Activity appears to have slowed down quite a bit down here near White Pass, as these storms with a history of producing dry lightning are moving towards the north-northwest in this area. And then some activity approaching the I-90 area between Easton and Cleellum. A lot of these storms are moving almost due north, but some of them are drifting out to the northwest. We'll have to watch what this area of showers does, because it does pose a threat to the Greenwater area. So this is Greenwater right up here. We have a little developing shower here moving almost directly towards you. It may hold off a little bit to the west, but it will likely, if it holds together, will still likely affect parts of 410 between Enumclaw and Greenwater, including parts of Federation Forest State Park along Highway 410. So, due to the slow-moving nature of these storms, it may be over an hour before any of this precip reaches your area, just as a heads up. Okay, lots of beneficial precip in the area of the Perry Fire now, up here in Whatcom County. It would appear as if these two storms sort of congealed into one. And yes, radar does support that. Looks like these two little thunderstorms up here over Ross Lake have congealed into one somewhat larger thunderstorm, which is producing lightning strikes as we speak. I believe it's just a hair south of the Perry Fire. But some of this shower activity is moving over some of the burn scars of the Perry Fire, so beneficial rain possible for the Perry Fire up north in Whatcom County. Yeah, I do believe we did have a weather advisory for the storm down here, southeast of Estacada in Oregon. I believe that has since expired, but this storm was capable of producing 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts and half-inch diameter hail at one point in time. I do believe that advisory has since been allowed to expire. All those valleys and that topography looks cool. See, that could be a double-edged sword, because although it looks cool, yes, it's also the reason why it's so hard to predict our weather so many hours and days out around here. Just because you could get, like during the wintertime, you could get snow up in the convergence zone area, but absolutely nothing a few miles on either side of that convergence. Or in the South Sound in particular, sometimes the higher elevations, such as Bonnie Lake and Buckley, can get some snow. But down in the valleys of Fife and Puyallup, you get absolutely nothing. You know, it's painful to forecast these things in real time. As you probably saw during my stream a couple nights ago, it was pretty horrific trying to narrow down all the details of this. And plus 2 more subscribers, so we're now at 446, only 54 away from the big 500 mark. Can we hit that tonight? Probably unlikely, depending on how long I do stream. It really just depends on what goes on around the Cascades. For any of you guys coming from Facebook, I made a post, I believe yesterday morning if I'm not mistaken, sometime yesterday, talking about the comparisons between the NAM high-res model and the HER high-res model. Showing how the NAM had nothing happening today, but the HER wanted to bring widespread storms in. So it looks like the HER takes the cake for this round. You know, usually the HER 3KM falls short of the NAM 3KM, but it appears to be flip-flopped around this time. So the HER 3KM did a much better job modeling the storm coverage and timing. Not familiar with these acronyms. Yeah, so let me go over that real quick. So I'm gonna go back to Weather Bell Premium here for the weather models. So if you look under short-term forecasts, they have a lot of crazy abbreviations here, which to the normal person, like even all of the deterministics, like all of these abbreviations are pretty hard to look at from the normal person eye. Like if you don't have much training with weather models or any real expertise in weather whatsoever, and this is not a diss whatsoever. This is me, talking real here. A lot of these abbreviations are really hard on the eyes. So we'll clarify some of these real quick, particularly some of the short-term ones. But so the HER 3KM, the high resolution rapid refresh, is the one I was referring to here, as well as the NAM, the North American Mesoscale model. Also have some additional ones down here. Aren't really important right now. I don't use a lot of these models. Mainly for my short-term forecasts, use the HER, High Resolution Rapid Refresh, and the NAM, North American Mesoscale. And we also have, for example, the European, which is the European Center of Medium Range Weather Forecasts, or ECMWF. And we got the Artificial Intelligence Forecasting System from the same model. GFS, which is Global Forecast System. This is known as the American Forecast Model. UK Met is, of course, United Kingdom's model. The ICON is the German model. We've got a few of the European models out here that are localized to parts of Europe. Japan Meteorological Agency. A lot of these I don't use though. They're just there for looks. Lisa says, neat, thanks. Yes, you're very welcome. Here's one. This is the RRFS, the Rapid Refresh Forecast System. This, I believe, is set to replace the NAM 3KM next year. So the NAM 3KM is going to be taken out of operation in favor of this model here. Albeit it still has a lot of kinks to work out. Sometimes it overdoes a lot of this storm activity. So it's picking up pretty well on the cell activity right now. It does show a lot of this activity fizzling out when the sun goes down. And it has a lot of areas east of the foothills missing out on any action. That's just because we have a much more stable air mass over us today compared to a few days ago. And then this model here, this is completely experimental again. I gotta make sure I clarify that ahead of time. This is experimental. This shows some storm activity firing up again over Mount Rainier tomorrow afternoon around 4 p.m. But it's very localized and closed off. And then who knows, maybe another round of showers over the Cascades, and then some more storms firing up here, particularly on the east slopes on Thursday. And then who knows, maybe another round for some areas east Friday afternoon. But it really has this air mass stabilizing over all of the Pacific Northwest as this next trough begins to move east. And then some models are suggesting that we have a ridge forming as well. So let's go look at that real fast as well too. So I usually zoom out to the northwestern quadrant. Okay, just got some climate summaries from Portland, nothing important. So this is the European deterministic, the new 18Z. Then go to height anomalies. So this is our current upper level trough right now. See, the broad center of it is off the coast of California, moving into the Cascades of Central Oregon. And it has this trough, sort of the center of it at least, sliding to the southeast a little bit. And then bouncing back out to the east just a tad. It's not going to move very fast whatsoever. Then we have a signal on the European that shows some of this ridging starting to come back over the area. However, confidence in this is low, and then we'll have to watch this next trough swing through as well, because this could have some weak windstorm implications. Then watching this, if you're a subscriber on the Facebook page for Puget Sound Stormwatch, Okay, so we have a comment in Spanish down here on the chat. Unfortunately, I'm very sorry I don't answer the comments in Spanish. My apologies for that. I do see that he's talking about some Atlantic hurricanes. He had a question about the Atlantic hurricanes. Yeah, I really wish I could answer that for you, but it's been many years since I've taken any sort of Spanish, so answering that is just not going to be in my specialty. So my apologies for that. So if we overlay the 500 millibar height contours as well as the surface pressure contours here, you see what I'm looking at here? It has this surface low popping up on the edge of this upper level trough here. So usually how this works is we have strong defluence aloft or diverging winds, and this allows for a surface low to form right below it because it's pulling those winds from the surface to fill the void and pressure above the surface. And it creates these surface lows, which are usually more present in the Great Plains during severe weather outbreaks. You usually see we have these broad upper level troughs that stretch out all the way from Canada, extend along the jet stream down into the central United States, and then we have these surface lows form usually on the southeast quadrant of these upper level lows. So depending on the position and strength of this, we could have a chance for some weak low-end windstorm potential for some of western Washington. However, confidence is extremely low. So if we go back in time here, there's been some extremely volatile solutions here. See, it's hardly even showing a surface low here in the 6Z. It was showing a 1005 millibar surface low here. Yesterday's 0Z and then yesterday's 18Z had two separate areas of low pressure here. 1006 millibar surface low up near northern central Vancouver Island off the coast, as well as a 1008 millibar surface low off the western coast of Oregon. And it had both of these quickly deteriorating, but still moving onto both coasts here, which was an extremely odd solution. But recent model runs have since discounted this. However, as we do go forward in time, notice how we do have this deepen just a little bit. A broad area of 1001 millibar pressure here, extending from just south of Haida, Kauai to parts of the Vancouver Island coast. As it moves in just north of Vancouver Island, it starts to pull to the north. This would likely bring a very weak storm potential. So see, this is as it's deepening off the coast, but these are accumulated max wind gusts. So the new run has it being mostly a non-factor for the Puget Sound, which is good news. Breezy, but nowhere near windstorm potential for areas of the Puget Sound. We had a little bit of a tighter wind field here in the last 12Z run. Maybe some stronger winds. We zoom into the Pacific Northwest quadrant a little bit, you can start to see some of these winds around here. So most recent run of this has 31 miles per hour at Sanderson Field, 30 miles per hour at one of the buoys off the coast. The 38 about 100 to 150 nautical miles west of Cape Disappointment. So still on the low end of things. So if we go all the way out to 360 hours, it has no more than 25 to 30 mile per hour wind gusts for a lot of the Puget Sound. However, in the 12Z run this morning, it does bring some stronger wind gusts with some low-end thunderstorm potential. So eyes will be peeled on this. I'll be making some posts here on the main Facebook page here soon. Probably as soon as tomorrow, but I'm going to give likely one more subscriber update before the night's over. Just talking about how fluid the situation is. I've been talking about this on the subscriber page for some time now. Because even a few days ago, we've had some low-end windstorm potential showing up on some of these models that I've been, since it's been extremely volatile and fluid, you know, it's been back and forth, hot potato on the models again. I'm not confident posting this to the main blog quite yet, because you know, I've had a lot of backlash with some of this storm hype, especially March 26th, for example, and I'm not bound to make the same mistake again. You know, the last thing I want to do is post something for hype and it completely 180s on me. And there you go, reputation gone. Anyways, made an obligation to take more stretch breaks and water breaks during this stream. So this, of course, is looking like all the way out several days. So this is already 10 days in the fantasy land. But we're even picking up some signals here at the end of the 15-day run for some strong winds along the Strait of Juan de Fuca. You notice as I put this into motion, this is way out the nighttime of September 23rd. So 14 days from now. It's showing another indication of some windstorm potential. A possibility for the storm train, perhaps. See, so we'll have to zoom out a little more. Just notice how it has several areas of low pressure coming in, including a 1006 millibar surface low making landfall on central Vancouver Island, but this is all the way out to the 21st. So at best, this is just fantasy forecasting. Should be taken with a grain of salt. Let's zoom way out here. So he just has a monster trough in the Gulf of Alaska at this time. And then a couple of surface lows revolving around it as well. So this is just a sneak peek for everyone what's posted on the Puget Sound Stormwatch sub page on Facebook. I go over a lot of hypothetical forecasts like this as well. And I just noticed it's been a while since I've checked the radar. Been kind of going off on a model tangent there, but the primary focus for this stream is to watch the radar right now. We have had this storm activity flare up to the south of Greenwater now. And these showers and thunderstorms are moving towards the general vicinity of Greenwater and Federation Forest State Park. If this holds on, it'll likely affect areas of 410 between Greenwater and eastern Enumclaw, outside of the Enumclaw city limits, in the next hour and a half or so. These are extremely slow-moving thunderstorms, only 15 miles per hour at most for most areas. But some more dry lightning occurring southeast of Greenwater as well. This is just a hair northeast of Crystal Mountain. And not much more lightning activity going on with this cell about to cross I-90 here soon, which is good. But still, this cell has its eyes set for Lake Cleellum, areas west of Rosslyn, including Ronald and Salmon-Lasac. We did have a dry lightning strike way out across Highway 903 on the other side of Ronald here very recently in the last 5 to 10 minutes. The brand new likely dry lightning strike ahead of this thunderstorm here due south of Easton as this storm approaches I-90 near Lake Easton. So to the west of Cleellum and just outside of Easton here, this storm will probably move east of Easton, and it's starting to make a little bulge out to the west, so this could affect the city limits of Easton, including points of I-90 west of Easton. So this does include the Iron Horse Trail as well. But New lightning strikes coming in with this cell just south of Easton. It's definitely got a chance. The cell started to exhibit some northwesterly behavior rather than some due north behavior. So a little bit of a directional shift here as we increase the distance from the center of low pressure. This cell has rapidly intensified down here. Way down here. This is somewhere along the county line where Klickitat County meets Yakima County. North of Goldendale, this storm is moving towards the north-northwest and is almost stationary. We'll probably get a weather advisory on this very soon. This would be NWS Pendleton's area, though. I'm going to be posting an update here to my Facebook page on this cell approaching the Greenwater area. Because it is producing lightning that is likely dry in nature and is striking several miles out from the parent thunderstorm. Alright, we are at 135 views, 14 likes, average view duration of 3 minutes and 9 seconds. So, not too bad. I know this is going to be nowhere near as popular as the stream the other night, and that's okay. But we are plus 6 subs on the day so far since the stream has started. Thank you everyone who has subscribed and showed support. I wouldn't be doing this without any of you guys. Lisa says, not sure how many people are aware that can happen. How far away from the parent cloud? So usually up to 15 miles. But there was an instance in the news recently from the Midwest where lightning struck over 500 miles from a parent thunderstorm. It was a huge weather enigma, but yeah, it was really hard to believe, but it's true. So there was a thunderstorm, I believe, down in Texas. I might have flip-flopped this, but there was a thunderstorm down in Texas, if I believe correctly, and it struck 560-something miles away. It might have been 515, it might have been 565. I don't remember the exact number, because it was several weeks ago. But yes, it shot out from the top of the cloud and struck all the way to a random point over 500 miles away. That's an extremely rare, if not relatively unheard of circumstance, though. So, yeah, we won't be seeing anything like that today, thankfully. But lightning can strike normally up to 15 miles away from a parent thunderstorm, which is why they say if you hear thunder, you're close enough to be struck by lightning. Yeah, Texas is pretty loco. Everything's bigger in Texas. Okay, new post being released to Facebook right now. So for any new viewers, welcome in. My name is Anthony. I'm the host of Puget Sound Stormwatch on Facebook as well as YouTube. This is more of a live impromptu style stream in place of the briefing for today. Was going to post a briefing earlier, but I just encountered some burnout. You know, when you do this so often, occasionally your train of thought just burns out. Well, I experienced some really heavy end burnout today, and it just, you know, it's truly tough. It's hard to explain, but it's really tough on my mindset. So I'm just trying to get back into it, but I just kind of had to dig myself out of a hole today. But don't worry, it's no big deal. Everything's fine. What's not fine, though, is the lightning that's striking several miles from these storms. You know, like this lightning strike here very recently was 2 to 3 miles from the edge of precipitation from this storm. And also to mention that this is perpendicular from the direction that the storm is moving. So this area probably won't get any precip on top of it after that lightning strike, which does increase the risk of localized fire starts. And look at that. 4 new lightning strikes, thankfully within the center of heaviest precipitation. So, lightning in the vicinity of the Iron Horse Trail and I-90 just east of Easton, approaching Lake Easton and points east. If you know anyone in this area of Easton or Western Cle Elum, Rosslyn, Ronald, and parts of Salmon Lasac, go ahead and give them a heads up. If they're not already hearing thunder, they should be hearing it shortly. It does appear that that stationary thunderstorm over Mount St. Helens has since significantly weakened to below thunderstorm criteria. Now it's just isolated showers. Now, I believe that is because these storms are running into a more stable layer of air above the ground. And stable air is a thunderstorm killer. You know, you need the atmosphere to be destabilized for these storms to mature and maintain themselves. They run into a parcel of stable air, it's going to kill it rather fast, like you saw there. Ooh. Just got a nice photo from a fan that lives in downtown Enumclaw. Looking towards the southeast, towards Mount Rainier, looks pretty cloudy down there right now. You can't really see the storm clouds just because there's so much low-level stratus over there right now. It's a little hard to see any cloud tops. And speaking of that, let's go look at the satellite imagery real quick. So this is visible satellite in the area right now. Go back to the last hour. You know, the center of this low-pressure area has become very much more disorganized compared to the previous days that it's been spinning around off the coast. So a little bit of still a little bit of storm activity, especially to the northern part of this. And so we have these lightning producing cells up here in the North Cascades. You know, this cell right here is producing some lightning earlier. It has since no longer produced any lightning in the last 20 minutes. Moving west along Highway 530 between Darrington and Rockport. So we'll be watching that for re-intensification. Otherwise, partly cloudy skies around the Puget Sound at this time. A little bit of marine stratus still hanging on around the northern coast, parts of the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and portions of the Olympic Peninsula. But other than that, just isolated high clouds and some low clouds for parts of the lowlands, especially points south of Tacoma. But this is the storm in question here that will be moving close to Greenwater. So a rather tall cloud structure there, and infrared satellite imagery shows this. So it shows a broad area of high cloud tops ranging from Lake Cochise all the way down to Packwood and areas of White Pass. So this is where the most robust storm activity is occurring at this moment in Washington State, outside of what's going on along the border here too. So these lighter colors here are indicative of taller cloud tops, aka colder cloud temperatures aloft. So we have really high cloud tops and much stronger storms along the Rockies here, as shown on infrared satellite imagery. So a lot of this is still affiliated with that monsoonal moisture coming in from the southwest. You know, that monsoonal moisture has been hanging around for a couple weeks up here. It's been giving us renewed chances of thunderstorms, especially in the Cascades, day after day after day for the last couple weeks now. It's only a matter of time until this monsoonal moisture is shoved out of the area, though. Gonna take a stretch break real quick. Be right back. Alrighty. For any new viewers, hello. I just said hello. Okay. Restart. Anyways, welcome in to any new viewers. My name is Anthony. I'm the host and founder of Puget Sound Stormwatch on YouTube and Facebook. We're closing in on 23,000 followers on Facebook, and we are 54 subs away from 500 on YouTube. I've just gone live this afternoon to cover the widespread thunderstorms across the Cascades, particularly the North Washington Cascades and the Southern Washington Cascades. Now, a lot of activity going on in the Cascades of Oregon right now. Most of this is starting to spread out to Eastern Oregon. You know, some isolated cell activity here in the foothills, moving into the Willamette Valley. Is this fairly typical for this part of September? So sometimes, but not all the time. You know, usually this is something that you see in July and August. Not really this far into September. However, 2013 was a good example that this can happen this time of the year. So for anyone that remembers back to 2013, we had several events in September. Mainly September 5th, 2013 was a big one. We did have some severe storms down here in Lewis County that day. But we had some of these southeast movers coming in, moving towards the northwest that affected parts of the Puget Sound that night on September 5th. And then September 15th, just 10 days later, we had some southerly movers coming in that postponed the Seahawks game at CenturyLink Field. That actually was a good example of elevated storm behavior. So I was down in Tacoma that morning, looking outside. There was a lot of low-level fog. You couldn't see the storms, but you could hear the thunder clearly. So we had that stable layer of air near the surface, but we had that unstable parcel above the surface, which allowed for the storms to form and maintain themselves thousands of feet in the air, but meanwhile a nice stable marine layer down near the surface in Tacoma. So it's not unheard of, but it is uncommon for this to happen at this point of time in the year. So we just saw this little cell pop up in the last 20 minutes. Just north of Cle Elum, mainly stationary. So these cells aren't really moving too much out here. But a new lightning producer north of Cle Elum, which should stay mainly stationary. And then a storm with a history of producing lightning in the last 10 minutes. Slowly but surely making its way north to I-90, just east of Easton. And then new lightning strikes in the last 5 minutes. This cell is moving east of Highway 410 towards the north right now. It looks like this cell here that we were watching on the west side of 410 is starting to deteriorate a little bit. It may be cycling, but it's possibly just starting to die out a little bit. Definitely looks a little more impressive on radar scope. Let me see real quick if I can get radar scope pulled up. Not showing as many lightning strikes on radar scope, but they are there. This also shows you the severe thunderstorm warnings in effect for parts of inland BC. So mainly east of the mountainous terrain out there. But we do have those severe thunderstorm warnings issued by Environment Canada. And you see why. We got scattered strong storms around here. I believe their severe storm criteria is quite a bit lower than the NWS's. But still, really robust thunderstorm activity in the higher terrain here of BC and areas surrounding it. So, strong shower activity over the Willamette Valley right now, south of Salem. I have a lot of cells firing up over the Corvallis, Albany area as well. And you can clearly see that textbook trough spin on the radar. So, if you're west of I-5, the cells are moving towards the south. But if you're east of I-5, they're moving mainly towards the northwest to almost out of due west, depending on where you are. For example, down here in Lebanon, these cells are moving almost directly out of the east. Meanwhile, Corvallis over Oregon State University are coming out of the northeast, moving southwest, and points west are moving towards the south. So you have that upper level trough counterclockwise spin down here, which is really renewing this chance of thunderstorms, mainly for the higher terrains. So yeah, this storm down here is hanging out right on that county line here. But yeah, you can see a lot of these storms here on the Langley Hill radar. But for the best image, we have to go to the Camino Island radar, for sure. And my radar scope just crashed. Wow. Amazing. It just crashed. Anyways, Windy's still showing the better image for lightning anyways. A lot of this isn't being picked up on radar scope. But it's still showing new lightning strikes striking out a mile or two from the apparent thunderstorm. So, a little bit of a re-intensification here with this little cell that's nearing Greenwater. But it's moving extremely slow, only 10 to 15 miles per hour at this time. So, new lightning strikes east of 410, and one new one west of 410. Would be a poor time to head up the Crystal Mountain right now. And probably a fair amount of dry lightning occurring with this thunderstorm north of Cle Elum right now. This is nearly stationary. The good news is we're getting some good precipitation right over this Perry fire right now, burning up near Ross Lake. Let's play an animation of the last hour or so. Two of these smaller thunderstorms congealed in the one somewhat larger storm, which has really started to weaken recently. Quite a bit of lightning activity north of the border. And no new activity in the last 20 minutes or so south of it, but we are getting beneficial precip over this Perry fire, which if we go back to the fire map again, and I posted this link earlier in the chat box, the Perry fire is burning on the west side of Ross Lake, moving towards the west. So it was updated 6 hours ago, but it was at 1,300 acres. So in relative to the weather radar, this is where the fire is burning right now, right here. Are getting some nice heavy precipitation right over that fire, which is great news. And yeah, it looks as if a lot of this activity down here in the foothills that produced lightning earlier has since fizzled out. So we could be getting some precipitation here between Rockport and Darrington right now. Probably some rain beginning to fall in the Darrington city limits. Although these storms are moving, as they move west, are moving into a much more stable air mass, which is not supportive for thunderstorms. Which is the reason why, most likely, I'm almost 90% sure that the Puget Sound area, anywhere west of the eastern foothill spots, like for example North Bend and Snoqualmie, will likely miss out on any shower or storm activity tonight. So let's zoom out to get an overall summary of the bigger picture right now. A lot of storm activity still hanging on here in northern Oregon, mainly the Cascades and points east. This is the center of our low pressure out here, and we just got a new strike with this developing cell just outside of Corvallis here. So some cell activity going on between Lebanon and Corvallis and parts of the foothills of the Coast Range here in Oregon. But most of this activity is sticking to the higher terrains where there's unstable air aloft, which means above the ground. And if I pull up Pivotal Weather real quick, we might be able to pull a sounding to show you exactly what I'm talking about here. Let's go with the HER 3KM. And yeah, see the HER 3KM's doing a pretty good job showing this, so brownie points for the HER for showing these solutions. And it has a lot of that activity dying out around this is 10 p.m. Pacific time tonight, and it just has a lot of that activity fizzling out once the sun goes down. So let's pull a sounding from the Tacoma area. So overall, not much energy to work with. And we have some warm air aloft that's really helping to keep these lapse rates shallow and keep a very minimal instability profile here. So lapse rates are less than 7 degrees Celsius per kilometer all across the curve here. Only 71 joules per kilogram of surface and most unstable parcel CAPE, which is the measure of instability based on which parcel you're using. So if we're basing it off the surface, it's the same as basing it off the most unstable, which is the elevated parcel, so above the surface, which is the one we want to focus on, the MU, most unstable, so above the surface. So convective inhibition, though, is negative 99, so you do not want the sin H to be greater than the CAPE. Yeah, and then as we go forward in time here, the instability profile becomes even more unfavorable. You want this purple EL line to be higher up, and you want this yellow LFC line to be lower down. You want the area between these two lines to be greater. So this just shows low-topped, high-based activity. So although for the most part, the surface base inversion has really eroded, we still have quite a bit of this area here that's on the right side of the white dashed line. So when the red dashed line is to the right of the white dashed line, you have inhibition, which prevents a surface parcel from rising past that point. And even shallower lapse rates here. See, the moisture is nowhere near as favorable. You want the green lines and the red lines to be touching for as much of this slope as possible. So the distance between these two is unsaturated air, which means lower relative humidity in retrospect. And yeah, you can just tell it's really stable air down here in the lowlands. Like extremely stable compared to what we saw a couple nights ago. Yeah, this is highly unfavorable for storm development. The most unstable parcel is 22 joules per kilogram of Cape, negative 117 joules per kilogram of inhibition. It looks like some of this activity is really starting to ram into that stable air layer. See, east of Oregon still flaring up pretty well. But the Cascades and points west really starting to struggle to get some lightning activity now. You know, the sun's still up, which is helping to boost the instability for the higher elevations. Pretty sunny outside my office right now, too. Yeah, quite a bit of activity going on north of Ross Lake across the border. Have some new lightning here south of the Perry Fire. So this cell that was down here seems to be spreading out north and south. Maybe even a little pop-up storm coming soon. Just on the outside, or just on the outskirts of the North Cascades National Park boundary here. Just depends on how it interacts with the air aloft. Is this more of an unstable region or a stable region? That's really going to determine storm behavior as the sun begins to set. Still watching some lightning here on both sides of 410. This is about 10 miles south-southeast of Greenwater. Right on the outskirts of Crystal Mountain. Let me see if I can pull up the crystal cams again. Let's see if we can see around the storms that are forming here. Great acronym. Thanks. Take care and catch you next time. Yes, thanks Lisa for tuning in. Appreciate you. Oh yeah. It's a little hard to tell right now if that's low-level smoke or cloud from the storm activity. It might be some wildfire smoke hanging around from that wildcat fire. I just wish they gave you a compass to tell which direction you're looking. It's a little hard to judge based off what I'm seeing here. Yeah, I'd say it doesn't look as erratic, so I'm going to take a guess and say that these are low-level clouds associated with those thunderstorms in that area. This looks like kind of a low-hanging fog. Still a little hard to tell. You know, it's easier to tell here. You can tell that those cloud bases are really hanging under the tops of the hills here. Yeah, you can tell a little better here on the Gold Hills imagery. See, this is lower than the heights of the summits. So it does look like it's some of that low cloud layer from those thunderstorms in the area right now. But maybe a little of that wildcat fire smoke mixed in. Because you can tell that the cloud layer down here, some of these little wispy clouds are moving faster than the clouds a little higher than that. I'd say this is more of like a low-hanging convective fog, sort of. But it would appear that most of this activity is starting to move into a much more stable air mass, which is really going to help inhibit some of this activity today. Just really hard to tell if any of these cams are looking north or not. Heading east from Mossy Rock area. So I have a follower in Cle Elum saying rain, thunder, and lightning right now. This is at nearly 7,000 feet. Just looking at the crystal cam for anyone tuning in. Thunderstorms to the north of Crystal Mountain right now. The potential of some mixed in lower level smoke as well with the wildcat fire. And for any updates on the wildcat fire, I highly recommend this site. This is the Western Fire Chiefs Association. I posted a link down in the chat box earlier. So you guys can also track the fire behavior with these fires as well. So this is an update on the wildcat fire. Over 7,700 acres in size. Updated 1 day ago. Still 0% containment. In the last 24 hours, it's luckily only grown 141 acres. So no erratic growth in the last 24 hours, which is a good sign. But if you notice also, we have a lot of new smaller fire starts that happened with those thunderstorms just a couple nights ago as well, which is not great news. A lot of these don't have any coverage on them yet, although this Minnehaha fire is up to 5 acres now. This one is burning right near where that lightning activity is occurring. Yeah, it's burning a little bit north, so in this area right here. If we're lucky, some of these showers may move over that and really help to dampen it before it grows out of control. But unfortunately, this is confirming several new wildfire starts from that lightning we had just 2 nights ago, I think it was. It was Saturday night, so yeah, almost 3 nights ago. Almost 3 nights ago. Let's pull a point sounding from the Cascades. So I'm gonna pull a point sounding near Crystal, around Shinnecock Pass. Yeah, it's definitely favorable for elevated storms, even some surface-based storms, because remember, this is about 5,000 feet above sea level. So the ground level up there is over 5,000 feet, which is why this sounding starts way up here at around the 800 millibar layer. But see, nice shallow moist layer here right above the surface there. And a nice elevated instability profile here too. We have absolutely no inhibition on any of the parcels here. The surface base and most unstable base cape in the mountains are just shy of 1100 joules per kilogram with no inhibition, which is why we're getting those thunderstorms really firing up and maintaining their strength up in the higher terrains. Meanwhile, if we start to go into the foothills though, still kind of there, but significantly more inhibition and less cape for either parcel. And relatively shallow lapse rates as well, which is the slope of this red line at any given range here. They mainly do 0 to 3 kilometers, 700 to 500 millibars, and 850 to 700 millibars. Or 850 to 500, excuse me. Which the equations for that can be seen down here as well. So you usually want these to be pretty steep, anywhere between 7 to 8, preferably greater than 8 degrees Celsius per kilometer for your favorable lapse rates. It just increases the area between where the red line is to the left of the white dashed line right here. Where it's to the right, that's your inhibition. So you don't want to have this to the right, you want to have this to the left, all the way up the profile. So really marginal conditions for the foothills. That's probably why a lot of these storms are hitting that area of more stable air and quickly dying out. And then as the sun goes down, you know, models are showing that a lot of this activity really starts to die out quick after the sun goes down. Yeah, most of Crystal Mountain's being taken over by this fog now. I just really wish I could tell which direction I was looking on any of these. But overall, all the cameras are showing the same story. Especially the Gold Hills cam right here. These are the higher terrains of the Crystal Mountain Resort area, and are being socked in by some of these low cloud bases right now. At least low in retrospect to the hills. And that's given us the illusion of fog up in these higher terrains. Relatively stoic conditions other than that up in hills right now. Yeah, you can see too. This low cloud layer is really starting to move in quick, and that's dropping visibilities up at the summit. But now most of the activity has moved north of Crystal Mountain. So now it's just going to be isolated shower activity, although these storms up here are mainly stationary. They're only moving at around 10 miles per hour towards the north. So it's possible that depending on which way some of these cams are facing. Okay, so I am seeing some of the names of these cameras, so. For example, the Gold Hills, if we match that up to the Gold Hills camera, which is right here. This appears to be facing southeast. So towards the Chinook Pass area, which is past where the action has moved already. So visibilities have rapidly dropped up at the summit here. But anyways, back to the radar. And a little call sign time for anyone just coming in. My name's Anthony. I am the host and founder of Puget Sound Stormwatch on Facebook and YouTube. We're quickly spreading our horizons outside of there, though. You know, I'm looking to launch my Blue Sky account for Puget Sound Stormwatch. Unfortunately, I have been slacking on this. I've been experiencing a lot of burnout from the weather recently. Especially having that 6-hour live stream, just experiencing a lot of fatigue with that. I'm just trying to get kind of back into the mojo here. It appears that this activity is... Okay, it's a little bit outside. I believe it's... Trying to see where this is in relation to Blewett Pass right now. It would look as if some of this precipitation is over the Labor Mountain fire, which is over 3,000 acres. A little bit southwest of Blewett Pass right now. Okay, it would appear this is lining up pretty closely with this shower activity. However, still seeing some dry lightning at this hour. There's nowhere near as much, which is good. It's a great sign. That's what you want to see. And there's another dry lightning strike. So you're several miles outside of the heaviest precipitation, so likely dry lightning there. Cells weakening again to the west of 410. This is the one that's moving towards the Greenwater area. No new lightning there recently, but still some more lightning happening to the cell east of 410. Just northeast of Crystal Mountain. But really starting to see the activity start to slow down, which is probably an indication of stable air moving in. Because we have the moisture, we have the lift. Now it's just an instability problem. So yeah, a lot of near stationary activity still holding on to the Oregon Cascades and points east. Some of the lowlands here and some of the river valleys branching out from the Cascades. Or, no, from the Columbia. My bad, excuse me. A really robust lightning producer just south of Grass Valley. I believe this is... I'd like to say this is US 97. It might be US 197. This is US 97. Okay. So... yeah, cells between US 197 here and US 97 in eastern Oregon. Just south of Grass Valley. These are mainly stationary storms. So the threat of flash flooding is also there as well. And I know parts of southern Oregon are under a flash flood watch as well. This is a look at the radar loop over the last hour, and we just had a new lightning strike up here in the Coast Range. You notice how the showers change direction around the center of low pressure here. So they're revolving counterclockwise, so showers to the south will be coming out of the west, but showers to the north will be coming out of the east. And this cell down here near Grass Valley is just producing a ridiculous amount of lightning right now. Like, beyond ridiculous. This cell appears to be weakening considerably. We did have quite a bit of precipitation over that Perry fire. Some really beneficial precipitation over that. Last time I checked, it was 1,300 acres as of 24 hours ago. So, a good sign there. Rain over some of the bigger fires around this area. Okay. For viewership, 9 viewers, 15 likes, 183 views. We're at 448 subs, so we are plus 8 on the day so far. Thank you everyone who has subscribed to the channel. Just, I didn't have a briefing today. I'm a little burnt out from the briefings. So I decided to do a live stream instead to answer any of those questions. And it just so happened to line up with the chance of thunderstorms around the Cascades, which are proving to verify at the moment. It just had a new lightning strike north of the border here. But elsewhere, just scattered showers at the moment. Mainly in the foothills and higher terrain. So probably some rain right now in Darrington and areas around Darrington. We were watching some lightning earlier, but this has since rapidly dissipated because these storms are running into that layer of stable air that is a thunderstorm killer. Yeah, really starting to see rapid drop off and shower coverage down here. No new lightning in the last 15 minutes from what I can see. Maybe about time to wrap this thing up already. So just looking at the bigger picture right now. You know, storms are firing up here on the edge of the Coast Range. Near Corvallis right now, so Oregon State, OSU is getting a lot of this activity here right now. But the strongest cells are currently east of the Oregon Cascades. There's some trying to fire back up again here, moving into Yakima County. I believe that stable air is just really struggling to really get things going over the Cascades. And we did just have a new lightning strike here just outside of this town of Leavenworth. But other than that, really, most of the Washington activity has weakened considerably. Maybe a little bit earlier than what the models are showing. It's time for another stretch break. Be right back. Okie doke. Thank you guys for your patience. If any new viewers are just tuning in, we're currently live streaming the widespread thunderstorm coverage around the Cascades at the moment. Since I first started this stream, activity has weakened considerably around the Washington side of things. We're watching a couple areas of interest here. Originally, this was a storm drifting down into the Darrington area. Also had a little thunderstorm here in the national park boundary, moving north towards Greenwater and vicinity. This has since deteriorated deteriorated. Excuse me. Still kind of watching some flare-ups in the foothills of the Cascades though, but for the most part, it's weakened to showers around the west side of things. Right now, most of the lightning is staying in Oregon or north of the international border. All right. Do we have any new questions, comments, or concerns from the viewership right now? I have more than enough time to answer any questions you may have to the best of my ability. So it would appear that the flash flood watch is actually east of the Oregon Cascades. So my apologies for the misinformation there. So it's east of the Cascades, affecting areas, these areas right up here. Saw a report earlier that it was parts of the West Cascades. This turned out to be false. So my apologies for any misinformation that may have been spread. But it looks like we are on the downslope of activity for tonight. So it would appear on radar. So overall, it looks like the HER 3KM did a good job nailing this forecast for the most part. This is what the 23Z has to say. So this was the 4 p.m. run. See, it's doing a pretty darn good job of modeling these storms today. So brownie points to the HER 3KM. And it really has this activity cutting off sharply in the next hour. And then we're down to sheer nothingness by 10 p.m. tonight. All right, so if we don't have any new comments or questions, then I'm going to begin to wrap things up for this afternoon. This is more of an impromptu style sort of stream, just like a lot of my other streams, so it's not super long, maybe 2 hours at most. My stream about 3 nights ago was the one that was covering all the widespread thunderstorms as they were happening. Wildly successful stream. It was just a few minutes shy of my longest stream ever. That being the August 17th, 2024 thunderstorm outbreak. And yeah, that's really all that needs to be said. So I guess we're going to go ahead and wrap things up for the afternoon. I definitely wasn't expecting this stream to yield much attention just because it was so short notice. Like, I think I started this up in about 5 minutes. Just experiencing a lot of burnout from the weather recently. So I'm going to try to go out and about and really try to refresh my state of mind, just because I've been doing this a lot, and you know, when you're doing something a lot, you eventually get tired of it. So I just kind of gave myself a break earlier today, and it has really helped tremendously. There's a lot of cleanup work I have to do around here, and I got to get ready to launch the Patreon page. The page, for the most part, is ready to go. I just have to fire off the ignition and publish the page. I'm just finalizing a few things. I want to make sure that the tiers are all set. Right now I have the free tier, which has access to all the blogs that I'm going to be posting. It should be able to cross-post from YouTube, Facebook, and Blue Sky, hopefully, because I will be firing up the Blue Sky soon. I just have to get on it. I've been slacking in that aspect, so I take full responsibility for that. I did also fire up the Coffee, I believe it's pronounced Coffee, account for Puget Sound Stormwatch as well, which is another ability to give one-time or monthly donations of your choice. They have the little welcome in posts here. Similar to Buy Me a Coffee is the closest thing that we have to it. You know, it's a really clean layout for the most part, but just expanding my horizons and giving other options for donations if you're interested. Of course, also a reminder too, I do have the Puget Sound Stormwatch store in commission too. So PugetSoundStormwatch.myspreadshop.com. I have this posted on various areas of the Facebook page. It's also in all my descriptions for YouTube as well. I currently have 4 designs right now. Let me take a Shelfie, Stratus Quo, the Stormwatch logo, as well as Every Cloud Has a Story. This one was requested by several viewers, although I've only had 1 purchase so far. Unfortunately, they're playing around with my pricing a little bit. I wish I could have lower pricing on a lot of this, but this is the lowest I can negotiate. So just bear with me on that aspect. You know, I do sincerely appreciate everyone's support. I've gotten a lot of helpful donations, which has helped me continue to do this gig, because this is considered my full-time job. You know, this is what I've always wanted to do, and it's been my dream to do it, and now that I even have the chance of doing it, I'm beyond ecstatic to be doing that. Unfortunately, if I cannot continue to do this, you know, if I just start tapping into savings, then I will eventually have to hit the job market again. Although I don't want to, if I absolutely have to, then I certainly will. But I'd love to keep doing streams and weather updates like this on a daily basis. Best case scenario, of course. You know, things are still kind of tight, so I'm working with very minimal resources right now, which is why, for example, the subscription program is so valuable to me. And all of you guys liking and sharing this stream, helping the algorithms, is doing me a huge favor. So I couldn't thank you all enough for doing that for me. Once we get to 500 subs and 3,000 public watch hours on YouTube, that will give me additional permissions for other monetization options, such as super chats and membership options. I'm just trying to keep it competitive and affordable, because I like doing this and I don't want to stop doing this for any reason ever. But if times of financial hardship do come up, then I will definitely be hitting the job market again. Unfortunately, that does mean less streams and less posts, but I don't want to take that away from the viewership. So I'm doing everything in my power to keep being able to do this. But without further ado, we'll take one last look at the radar, and then depending on what I see here, which isn't much, we're going to go ahead and follow through with closing off the stream for the afternoon. Very limited lightning activity in Washington at the moment. It looks like it's only happening east of the Cascades, and even then, not much more recent in the last 10 minutes. Most of the lightning activity has been staying north of the border and south of the Washington-Oregon border right now, from mainly stationary thunderstorms. All right, so with all that being said, thank you guys so much again for tuning in to this short notice live stream. I should have another briefing out sometime tomorrow morning or afternoon, depending on how things look around here. I'm expecting some family to come over, so depending on how that goes, the briefing may be suspended. Definitely going to be mentioning the low-end windstorm chance that some models are showing for a few days away from now. So do be prepared to see that on Facebook as well. I'm looking to post about it either tonight or tomorrow. But I do need to get some cleanup done around the apartment that I've really been slacking on because of the weather. So no excuses anymore. But this was Anthony with Puget Sound Stormwatch on Facebook and YouTube, quickly expanding its horizons around the web. Are currently about 150 followers shy of 23K on Facebook. And we are at 448 subs and counting on YouTube. So a little bit shy of that 500 sub goal, but that's okay. We'll just work our way up from the bottom. Sonia says, thank you. I appreciate you tuning into the stream again, Sonia. Although much less action intensive, I thank you again for sticking around for as long as you have. So yeah, I should expect a briefing out tomorrow if all goes well. And I also eventually want to get into the non-briefing and non-live stream content, such as some storm montage. Because I do have a lot of storm footage, especially from the drone, that I have saved up on my solid-state drives, on my laptop, on my computer, as well as my portable drives. I have some going as far back as the August 17th storm last year. I have drone footage from March 26th of this year. A couple of other nighttime lightning events that we had. I did post some of this footage in the subscriber tab a few months ago on Facebook, but I haven't gotten around to putting a full-on edited compilation together. So just go ahead and give me reminders to get that out, because I need to be held accountable for all of this. It's just unfortunate that I'm experiencing this much burnout already. I really don't want to, but it is what it is. So don't worry, we're going to get back into this thing, and we're really going to be hitting the pedal to the metal here soon. We're getting into most likely an active weather period here shortly. There is evidence possibly that the Pacific Northwest storm train may be firing up again, but there's a lot of model disagreement going on. Some of the models actually have a huge ridge forming over us, which would give us ridiculously above average temperatures, perhaps in the 80s again. But confidence on this is extremely low. So if you want to find out more, consider subscribing to Puget Sound Stormwatch on Facebook. It's only 99 cents per month. So extremely affordable and extremely worth it. I post a lot of fantasy style content on there that goes out many days into the forecast. So things that you wouldn't see me posting on the main page just for hype, as well as in-depth weather discussions and access to a page called PSSW Superfans, which just hit 50 members today also. So I appreciate all of you guys for subscribing to the page. Doing this would not be possible without any of you watching right now. But with all that being said, I've been going too far on the tangent, so we're going to wrap things up for the night. Thank you guys so much for watching. Just shy of 2 hours. This was Anthony with Puget Sound Stormwatch on Facebook and YouTube, signing off for the night. Have a great afternoon.